My name is Ava Bennett. I'm 29 years old, and I live in Denver, Colorado. 3 years ago, if someone had told me that my own parents would ban me from my sister's wedding, then call me crying 3 days later begging for money, I would have laughed in their face. Not because my family was perfect. We weren't. But I still believed blood meant something. I still believed that no matter how many times my parents favored my younger sister Lily, they would never completely erase me. I was wrong. And what happened after that wedding invitation disappeared from my life still shocks me to this day. Even now, every time my phone rings late at night, part of me remembers that moment. That horrible moment. The moment my mother called and said 5 words that changed everything. Please don't come anymore. At first, I thought she was joking. I remember standing in my apartment kitchen holding a coffee mug while rain hit the windows outside. I had just gotten off a 10-hour shift at the hospital. I worked as a senior respiratory therapist back then, and those shifts drained the life out of me. But hearing my mother say those words, that exhaustion disappeared instantly. "What?" I asked. There was silence. Then my father's voice came onto the line. "It's for the best, Ava." For the best. That phrase haunted me for months. I stared at the refrigerator where Lily's save-the-date card was still hanging under a magnet. I'd spent almost 8 months helping prepare for that wedding. I booked vendors. I designed invitations. I handled seating charts. I even loaned Lily money when she claimed she was struggling. And now suddenly, I wasn't welcome. I laughed nervously. "You're serious?" My mother sighed dramatically. "Sweetheart, Lily feels uncomfortable." "Uncomfortable about what?" Another silence. Then came the sentence that shattered something inside me. "She thinks you always make things about yourself." I actually looked around my empty apartment after hearing that, as if maybe hidden cameras were filming some cruel reality show, because none of it made sense. I spent my whole life making myself smaller for Lily. Smaller achievements, smaller celebrations, smaller dreams, just to keep peace inside our family. And somehow, I was still the problem. But I had no idea that call was only the beginning. Because 3 days later, the same people who banned me from the wedding would be begging me to save it. And by then, I finally understood something important. Family can hurt you deeper than strangers ever could. But sometimes, the people they underestimate become the ones holding all the power. My sister Lily was 2 years younger than me. Blonde hair, perfect smile, perfect grades, perfect cheerleader life. At least that's how my parents described her. Meanwhile, I was the difficult daughter, not because I caused trouble. Actually, I was quiet. I studied constantly. I worked part-time jobs since high school. I stayed home. I followed rules. But I wasn't Lily. That was enough. When I was 12 years old, I won 2nd place in a statewide science competition. I still remember running into the house holding the trophy. My father barely looked up from the TV. "That's nice," he said. 5 minutes later, Lily walked downstairs crying because she didn't make junior varsity cheerleading. Suddenly, the entire house revolved around comforting her. That became our family pattern. Whenever something good happened to me, it was ignored. Whenever something bad happened to Lily, it became a national emergency. I wish I noticed the signs earlier. But when you grow up inside dysfunction, it feels normal. You learn to survive by accepting crumbs. By the time I turned 23, I had already graduated college and started working at Denver General Hospital. Lily, meanwhile, changed majors 3 times and moved back home twice. Still, my parents spoke about her like she was some misunderstood genius. "Ava, your sister is sensitive. Ava, stop judging her. Ava, family supports each other." Funny how family support only moved in one direction. When my car broke down during a snowstorm, nobody helped me. But when Lily wanted to attend a destination birthday party in Miami, my parents somehow found $6,000. I stopped expecting fairness after a while. Instead, I focused on work. And honestly, I built a good life. Not glamorous, not luxurious, but stable. I I had my own apartment, a decent salary, savings, a few close friends. Most importantly, I had peace. Or at least I thought I did. Then Lily got engaged, and suddenly the entire family dynamic exploded. I first met Ethan during Lily's engagement dinner. Tall, polite, expensive watch, corporate finance job. The kind of man my mother instantly adored. "You're exactly what Lily deserves," she told him. I nearly rolled my eyes into another dimension. Still, Ethan seemed nice enough. But something felt strange that night. Every time Lily left the table, Ethan looked exhausted. Not annoyed, not angry, exhausted. Like someone already drowning. At one point, he quietly asked me, "Has your sister always been this intense?" Before I could answer, Lily returned carrying champagne. And just like that, his smile snapped back into place. That was the first red flag. The second came 3 weeks later. Lily called me crying hysterically because the wedding venue she wanted cost almost $40,000. "I can't have my dream wedding there," she sobbed. I tried comforting her. "There are beautiful venues for less money." She exploded instantly. "You don't understand because you don't care about marriage." I sat there stunned. I had literally spent years helping her emotionally, financially, mentally. But because I suggested a cheaper venue, suddenly I was the villain. 2 days later, my mother called. "Ava, your sister is under stress. You should apologize." That sentence told me everything. Not once did anyone ask how I felt. Not once. Still, I apologized. Because that's what I always did. I kept peace. And honestly, part of me still hoped maybe this wedding could finally bring our family together. I had no idea it would destroy what little relationship we had left. The next few months became completely consumed by Lily's wedding. And somehow, I became unpaid staff. Every problem landed on my shoulders. Florist canceled? Call Ava. Dress fitting issue? Call Ava. Photographer unavailable? Call Ava. Meanwhile, Lily posted glamorous engagement photos online pretending her life was perfect. Nobody saw the screaming meltdowns, the insults, the manipulation. One afternoon she called me because the bakery made the wrong shade of ivory frosting. She screamed so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. Then she said something that stuck with me. "You have no idea how hard it is being me." I almost laughed. Because at that exact moment I had just finished a 14-hour hospital shift involving 2 emergency respiratory cases. But somehow Lily's frosting crisis was apparently more devastating. The worst part? My parents encouraged it. They treated her like royalty. Meanwhile, I was expected to quietly solve problems without needing appreciation. Then came the money requests. First it was $2,000 for floral upgrades, then another $4,000 for guest accommodations, then more. Every time Lily promised to repay me. She never did. By the time the wedding week arrived, she owed me nearly $11,000. I never even brought it up, because I knew exactly what would happen. Somehow I'd become selfish for wanting my own money back. Still, despite everything, I was genuinely trying. I bought Lily a custom pearl bracelet for the wedding. I planned her bridal shower. I spent nights editing seating arrangements. And maybe that's why what happened next hurt so much. Because betrayal from enemies feels expected. Betrayal from people you sacrificed for? That hits differently. 3 days before the wedding, I stopped by my parents' house carrying gift bags. The atmosphere felt strange immediately. Quiet, cold, awkward. My mother wouldn't look me in the eye. Lily sat at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone dramatically. Finally, she sighed. "We need to talk." That sentence never leads anywhere good. I sat slowly. My father folded his arms. Then Lily started crying. Real tears. Oscar-worthy tears. "I just feel like Ava judges me constantly." I blinked. "What?" "She ruins the energy around me." I honestly thought she was joking, but nobody laughed. Then my mother spoke. "Sweetheart, maybe it's best if you skip the wedding." The room spun. I looked from face to face, waiting for someone to stop this insanity. Nobody did. "You're serious?" I whispered. My father nodded. "We want a drama-free weekend." Drama-free. After I spent months fixing their drama, I could literally feel my heartbeat pounding in my throat. "I paid for half this wedding." Lily immediately stood up. See? This is exactly what I mean. You always make everything transactional." I stared at her in disbelief. Transactional? I loaned her thousands of dollars, spent months helping her, sacrificed my time, and suddenly mentioning reality made me selfish. That's when something inside me finally cracked. Not loudly, quietly, like glass breaking under water. I looked at my parents. "Do you agree with this?" Neither answered immediately. That silence hurt more than words. Finally, my mother said softly, "It's just one day, Ava." No, it wasn't one day. It was 29 years of being treated like I mattered less. I set the gift bags on the floor. Then I walked out. Nobody stopped me. Nobody followed me. And that was the moment I realized something devastating. If I disappeared from this family completely, they would only notice when they needed something. I didn't know how right I was. The next 2 days felt surreal. I ignored calls, ignored texts, ignored social media. I barely slept. Part of me kept hoping someone would apologize. Nobody did. Instead, I saw wedding rehearsal photos online. Smiling faces, champagne glasses, perfect family pictures. Without me. I cried harder that night than I had in years. Not because I missed the wedding, because I finally accepted the truth. I was never truly part of that family. I was useful. That's different. Then Saturday morning arrived, the wedding day. I stayed home wearing sweatpants watching old movies while trying not to imagine what was happening downtown. At around 2:17 p.m., my phone rang. Mom. I ignored it. Then Dad called. Then Lily. Then Ethan. Then Mom again. My stomach tightened. Something was wrong. Finally, I answered. My mother sounded panicked. "Ava, please." I sat upright. "What happened?" "The venue is refusing to continue unless the balance is paid." I blinked slowly. "What balance?" Silence. Then my father spoke. $38,000. I nearly dropped the phone. What? Apparently, Lily and my parents had lied to multiple vendors. They promised final payments after gifts arrived, but the venue manager refused. Guests had already arrived. The ceremony was delayed, and suddenly everyone realized something horrifying. Nobody had enough money, except me. That's when everything changed. I could hear chaos behind my mother's voice, people yelling, music stopping, someone crying. Then my mother said the sentence that still makes me laugh today. "Family helps family." I stared at my apartment wall in complete disbelief. Family. Interesting word choice. 3 days earlier, I wasn't family enough to attend the wedding. Now suddenly I was family enough to finance it. I asked quietly, "So now you need me?" "Ava, please don't do this right now," my father snapped. "Don't do this?" I wasn't the one who banned their daughter from the wedding. I wasn't the one who lied about payments. I wasn't the one causing public embarrassment. But somehow, they still acted like I was the problem. That's when Lily grabbed the phone. She sounded furious. "If you ruin my wedding over money, I swear I'll never forgive you." I actually laughed. A cold laugh. Because after everything, she still believed she had power over me. I took a deep breath. "Lily, you already uninvited me." "That was different." "No," I said softly. "It really wasn't." Then she started crying. Real panic this time. "The guests are waiting." I closed my eyes. For a brief moment, old Ava almost returned. The version of me that fixed everyone's disasters. The version desperate for love. But then I remembered standing alone in my apartment staring at rehearsal photos. I remembered years of humiliation, years of being second place, and finally, I said the one thing they never expected. No. Dead silence. Then screaming erupted. My father exploded. How dare you? My mother sobbed. Lily called me selfish, and for the first time in my life, I didn't apologize. I hung up. You'd think the story ends there. It doesn't, because what happened at that wedding became legendary in our town. Later, multiple relatives told me the entire timeline. Apparently, guests waited nearly 90 minutes while staff argued with my father near the ballroom entrance. The wedding coordinator threatened to shut everything down. Ethan looked horrified. Lily kept screaming in the bridal suite, and eventually the truth spread among guests. The family couldn't pay. Imagine hundreds of people dressed elegantly while whispering about financial disaster. Humiliation filled the room. Then came the biggest twist. Ethan discovered the truth about the wedding finances, because until that day, he believed Lily's parents were covering most expenses. They weren't. They had maxed credit cards, taken personal loans, borrowed money from relatives, and expected me to rescue them. When Ethan realized this, something inside him snapped. According to his cousin, he walked directly into the bridal suite and asked Lily one question. How long were you planning to lie to me? Nobody knows exactly what happened next. But 20 minutes later, Ethan left the venue alone. The wedding collapsed. Completely. No ceremony, no reception, no marriage, just chaos. And somehow my parents still blamed me. The next week became emotional warfare. Relatives started messaging me. Ava, your parents are devastated. Ava, couldn't you have helped? Ava, families should forgive each other. Funny, nobody asked why I was banned from the wedding. Nobody cared how deeply I'd been hurt. They only cared about appearances. Then things got worse. Lily began posting vague social media quotes. Some people only care about money. Jealousy destroys families. True colors always come out. Translation? She painted herself as the victim. And honestly, for a while it worked. Some relatives stopped speaking to me. Others treated me coldly. But then small details started leaking, like the fact I funded multiple wedding expenses, or the fact I'd been uninvited days earlier, or the fact vendors were threatening legal action. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. People started asking uncomfortable questions, especially one. Why would loving parents exclude their daughter after taking her money? That question changed everything. My grandmother Evelyn had remained silent through most of the chaos. That scared everyone. Because when Grandma stayed quiet, it meant she was furious. She invited me to lunch 1 week later. The moment I sat down, she grabbed my hand. I know the truth. I burst into tears immediately. Not because she defended me, because somebody finally saw me. Grandma listened while I explained everything. The loans, the exclusion, the humiliation. She sat silently for several minutes afterward. Then she said something I'll never forget. Your parents confused your kindness with weakness. That sentence healed something inside me. Because she was right. I spent years shrinking myself for people who would never love me properly. And the moment I stopped rescuing them, they called me selfish. Grandma leaned closer. They've done this your whole life. I stared at her. You noticed? She laughed sadly. Everyone noticed. That hurt more than I expected. Everyone noticed. And nobody stopped it. Then Grandma revealed something shocking. She planned to financially help my parents retire. Past tense. Planned. After the wedding disaster, she changed her mind completely. What they did was cruel, she said calmly. And for the first time in weeks, I finally felt something other than heartbreak. I felt powerful. About 2 months later, Lily showed up at my apartment unexpectedly. I almost didn't open the door, but curiosity won. She looked terrible, mascara streaked, wrinkled clothes, exhausted eyes. Apparently, Ethan officially ended the relationship, not just because of the wedding, Because of years of manipulation and dishonesty, he'd slowly started noticing. Lily walked into my apartment silently. Then she started crying. I lost everything. Part of me wanted to comfort her. That old instinct still existed. But another part finally remembered all the times she enjoyed my pain. So instead, I asked quietly, "Why are you here?" She hesitated, then finally admitted the truth. Debt collectors were contacting my parents. The failed wedding created massive financial problems. They needed help. Again. I almost laughed from disbelief. Even after everything, she still came asking for money. That's when I realized something important. Some people never truly see you as human, only as a resource. I looked directly at her. I'm not your emergency fund anymore. Her expression changed instantly. The tears disappeared. The mask slipped. You're really going to abandon family? There it was. The manipulation, the guilt, the entitlement. And suddenly I felt strangely calm. No, I said softly. I'm finally choosing myself. Then I opened the door, and for the first time in my life, I let her leave without chasing after her. 3 weeks later, Ethan contacted me. At first I ignored the message, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at a quiet coffee shop downtown. He looked embarrassed. I owe you an apology, he said immediately. Apparently during the relationship, Lily constantly painted me as jealous and unstable. She claimed I hated seeing her happy. I laughed bitterly. Classic. Ethan rubbed his forehead. I didn't realize how much you actually carried that family. Then he revealed something shocking. The wedding disaster wasn't just about unpaid bills. Lily secretly expected him to take over her parents' debts after marriage. Tens of thousands of dollars. Without telling him. When he discovered that at the venue, everything collapsed. I couldn't marry someone who lies like that, he admitted. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then he said something unexpected. You saved me that day. I stared at him. If you paid those bills, I probably would have gone through with the wedding. That realization hit me hard. By refusing to rescue them, I accidentally exposed the entire family dynamic. The lies, the manipulation, the financial chaos, everything. And honestly, that felt better than revenge. It felt like truth finally winning. As months passed, my parents became increasingly desperate. Without me financially helping behind the scenes, reality hit them hard. Credit card debt piled up. Legal notices arrived. Their second mortgage became a nightmare. And for the first time in their lives, nobody rescued them. They blamed me constantly. Apparently, my mother told relatives, Ava turned cold after becoming successful. No, I became exhausted after being emotionally exploited for years. Huge difference. Then came Thanksgiving, the first holiday I skipped. That decision shocked everyone, because historically, I always returned, no matter how badly they treated me. But this time I stayed home with friends instead. And honestly, it became one of the happiest holidays of my life. No tension, no comparisons, no emotional manipulation. Just peace. That's when I understood something painful. Love shouldn't feel like survival. Family shouldn't require self-destruction. And the moment you realize that, everything changes. About 8 months after the failed wedding, the story exploded online. Not because of me, because one of the guests uploaded a TikTok Storytime video about the wedding where the bride got abandoned after financial lies. The video went viral. Millions of views. People became obsessed, especially after anonymous relatives started commenting details. Then local gossip pages picked it up. Soon everyone knew. The unpaid venue, the fake luxury lifestyle, the daughter excluded after funding expenses, everything. My mother called me screaming. This humiliation is your fault. I almost dropped the phone laughing. My fault? You turned everyone against us. I hadn't posted a single thing, not one. But narcissistic people always need a villain, and when reality exposes them, they panic. That's when my father finally said something honest. "We thought you'd always fix things." Silence filled the line, because there it was, the truth, not love, expectation, dependence, convenience. I took a deep breath. Well, not anymore. Then I hung up. For good. The strangest part about leaving toxic people behind? At first it feels lonely. Then, eventually, it feels peaceful. I started therapy. Real therapy. Not the fake family-first conditioning I grew up with. And slowly I began understanding how deeply damaged my self-worth had become. I spent my entire life believing love had to be earned, by sacrificing, by fixing, by giving endlessly. But healthy love doesn't demand constant suffering. Healthy love doesn't disappear when you say no. That realization changed my entire future. I started traveling, started painting again, started dating carefully. Most importantly, I stopped apologizing for existing. One evening, nearly a year after the wedding disaster, I stood on my apartment balcony watching snowfall over Denver, and for the first time in decades, I felt free. Not because my family changed. They didn't. I changed. I finally understood my value wasn't connected to how useful I was to others. And honestly, that lesson cost me a family. But it gave me myself back. A year and a half after the failed wedding, I received another unexpected call. My father was in the hospital. Minor heart issue. Nothing life-threatening. Still, I went. Not because guilt controlled me anymore, because compassion did. There's a difference. When I entered the hospital room, both my parents looked older, smaller somehow. Reality had worn them down. For several minutes, nobody spoke. Then my mother quietly started crying. "We made mistakes." Mistakes. Interesting word. As if decades of emotional favoritism could fit inside that tiny sentence. I sat silently. Then my father finally looked at me. "We thought Lily needed us more." That sentence hit hard. Because it explained everything. I was independent, responsible, reliable. So they assumed I'd survive neglect. And I did. But survival leaves scars. My mother reached for my hand. "You deserved better." I wish hearing that healed me instantly. It didn't. Some wounds don't disappear just because people finally admit they caused them. Still, I appreciated the honesty, and for the first time in years, I stopped feeling angry. Not because they earned forgiveness, because I no longer needed their approval to move forward. That's true freedom. People always ask about Lily. The truth? Life humbled her. Not dramatically. Quietly. She eventually moved to another state, got a regular office job, stopped chasing luxury appearances. Last I heard, she was doing okay. We don't really speak anymore. Not because I hate her. Because distance became necessary. Sometimes love from afar is the healthiest option. And honestly, I hope she changed. I truly do. But healing doesn't require reconnecting with people who hurt you. That's something many people don't understand. Closure isn't always reunion. Sometimes closure is simply choosing peace. If you've listened this far, maybe parts of this story feel familiar. Maybe you were the responsible child too. The fixer. The peacekeeper. The one expected to sacrifice constantly. And maybe deep down, you still hope those people will finally appreciate you. I understand. I really do. But here's what I learned. People who benefit from your silence rarely celebrate your boundaries. The moment you stop rescuing them, they call you selfish, cold, ungrateful. Not because you changed, because the system changed, and suddenly they no longer control you. That wedding broke my heart. But it also woke me up. Because losing toxic love creates space for real peace. And honestly, I'd rather be alone than constantly begging for scraps of affection from people who only notice me when they need money. Today, my life is quieter, smaller, healthier. And every once in a while, I remember that phone call. Please don't come anymore. Funny thing is, that rejection ended up saving me. Because 3 days later, when they begged for $38,000, I finally realized my value was never supposed to come from what I could give people. It came from who I already was. And once you understand that, nobody can manipulate you the same way again. Ever.